Welcome to the Magic Miniseries Part 4, Dark Magic. I've come for your soul. So, of course, all magic comes with a price. The price of dark magic is a darkened soul. This darkness is actually light that's leaving a person rather than the darkness coming in and enveloping them. It's a lack of light. So a dark magician tends to the more they use their magic, the darker their souls become. This can look different, of course, compared to other dark magicians. Dark magicians can still feel things like love and joy and happiness, but they tend to have a darker view of the world. They tend to be more self-sabotaging, concerned. They also tend to have a leniency towards enjoying things like blood and death and violence, just all those things that are of dark nature. And this becomes progressively worse the closer that they get to mastering, and the more that they practice their magic can really start to take its toll. Okay, so the first kind of dark magic is destruction. As you know, we recently split up destruction and elementalists, and we'll go into that a little bit. So the idea, basically the main reason that we wanted to do that was because the purpose of destruction magic is to cause harm. You can't use destruction magic for good because it's a dark magic. It encompasses the elements, but it's not limited to them. So even though we now have elementalists, destruction users can still use the elements. The difference will be in that if you're like comparing a master of destruction who is currently using fire, for example, and a master fire elementalist, the fire elementalist is going to be stronger in fire than a destruction user is in fire, if that makes sense. Other things that a destruction user can use that aren't within the elements, they can do things like draining someone's energy, shattering bones, disintegrating cells. So there's lots of things that they can do that are outside of the elements, all with the purpose to cause harm, be destructive. So destruction and conjuration are different. So a destruction user cannot create fire. They can manipulate fire that's already in place, where a conjuration user can conjure fire, which can then be manipulated. So it's usually a really good idea to learn both of them so that you're less limited. A master of destruction cannot be healed by restoration magic. This is mostly because it's too light. It can't affect their darkness. They've gone past the point of light being able to help them. Along that same line of thought, a master of restoration can still be harmed by destruction magic, and someone who has been affected, who's been injured by a master of destruction, can still be healed by a restoration user. So it only goes one way. So an example of how destruction might look for someone based on their level, their attribute points. Let's use the example of a fireball. So a novice or apprentice would be able to create an unformed, small, weak ball of fire that shoots at somebody. Someone who is adept could form it into a shape. We'll use a dragon for an example. It would be stronger and larger than the fireball. Someone who's an expert would be able to create a medium-sized dragon that was very destructive. And then a master would be able to create a full-size dragon that would be a terror on the town and extremely destructive and powerful. Alright, so dealing with the other half of dark magic is shadow magic, which is a rare magic. Shadow magic is, it kind of encompasses a lot of things. It's a little bit as, they're sort of like a shadow elementalist. They sort of use conjuration, they use a little bit of alteration. It's kind of like this interesting like mix of different magics. So things that you can do with shadow magic. You can draw power from the shadows. You can manipulate shadows to create shapes like weapons, which then turn into a solid mass. This would always retain its physical appearance of a shadow, but it would be physical. You can use it as a weapon. You can throw a shadow as you would a fireball, and it would be a similar idea as a weapon, essentially. Like in my mind, like they're forming into like a cannonball, right? A solid mass that they can throw. Someone who's at least an expert can place shadows inside of somebody else's mind, and this would it inflicts like just a darkness into their minds. It would look different to everyone. It would be up to the player who's being affected to decide really how that looks for them. And it's really only capable on minds that are already weak because of one way or another, because they're weak-willed, because they're going through some sort of trauma. So it would only be able to affect certain people. A master of shadow magic can create a portal or a shadow gate, and this would look different for every character. It's up to the member to decide what that really looks like for each person. It's capable of bringing through several people at once. The portal that was created to bring everybody to North Haven was like a joint effort. You can use other types of magic to be able to help. So Bellamy had people assist him. He could help channel power into him to be able to create a portal large enough to bring in as many people as he did bring into North Haven. So there is portals for masters. A grandmaster of shadow magic can essentially turn into a shadow, and they can kind of travel between the shadows and move amongst them. Some examples of things you could do based on your level at shadow magic. We're going to use the example of forming something into something solid like a weapon to use. So at a novice or apprentice level, this might be less definitively formed. It would be small, like a knife or a dagger. Wouldn't be quite as like damaging or threatening. At an adept level, you could probably do something like shoot like a bow and arrow, create some more distance. At an expert level, something medium-sized and in strength, like a short sword or a rapier. And then a master could create a large, powerful sword, a hammer, an axe, something that's really strong and can hold up. Another thing about shadows is that they can be weakened by light. So if, for example, a fire elementalist is fighting against a shadow magician and used some like bright fire, then it might like weaken that weapon and make it be, you know, less effective. So there we go. Dark magic, destruction, shadow magic, all of it's dark, bad, not used to be helpful or beneficial. So there you go.